Good evening, Thunder sports fans, and welcome to King Arena for a big non-conference late November showdown between the University of Chicago and the Wheaton College Thunder. Nate Frank here, along with Owen Handy, former Anderson University head coach, and collectively two former Wheaton College assistants, also known as the bottom of Wheaton SID, Brett Marhanka's barrel. With the students on break, we're here to bring you the game, and Owen, it should be a good one.
It should be a good one. You know, we've seen, we get two teams from two of the top Division III conferences in the country, Chicago from the University Athletic Association and Wheaton from the College Conference of Illinois and Wisconsin. The series has gone on for a number of years, each team claiming 3 out of the last 6 meetings. So we expect another good ball game this evening.
Excellent. It should be a good one, and we'll pause now for the national anthem.
Here are the starting lineups for tonight's game. First, for the visiting University of Chicago Maroons, number 2, a 6'6" senior from Paradise Valley, Arizona, Alec Bryan. Number 15, a 6'5" sophomore from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, Ezra Moose. A 6'1" freshman from Topeka, Kansas, number 20, Joe Barry. A 6'4" sophomore from Niles, Michigan, number 23, Thomas Karowski. Number 42, a 6'4" junior from Geneva, Illinois, Geneva High School, Josh Preston. The Maroons are coached by Mike McGrath. Here are the starters for your Wheaton College Thunder. Number 3, a 6'3" senior from Bowie, Maryland, Eddie Scott. A 5'11" grad student from Highlands, Colorado, number 13, Tyson Cruikshank. Number 22, a 6'5" senior from Portage, Wisconsin, Eli Considine. Number 23, a 6'7" grad student from San Diego, California, TJ Askew. And number 24, a 6'4" junior from Columbus, Indiana, Nick Chavallo. The Thunder is coached by Mike Schauer, assisted by John Panner and Zach Quam. The officials for tonight's game, Randall
Well, Owen, you mentioned at the outset this is a matchup between two teams from two of the preeminent leagues in America. This is also a matchup of two teams with two of the most geographically diverse rosters. Just looking at the starting lineups, you have 7 different states and a Canadian province in a game and at a level of basketball where it could be rather provincial. These two teams definitely recruit nationally. How does that affect how their coaches go into recruiting season?
So I think it's an interesting, it's a different approach than if you're recruiting locally. Both schools not only recruit, they're forced to recruit from a diverse geographic region because of the admission standards or particularities of the institutions.
Excellent. And now here we go. Wheaton in the home white, University of Chicago in the visiting maroon, and Wheaton does not control the tip. It's tapped back to Josh Preston, and here we go. You're going to see contrasting styles from an offensive perspective. Chicago spends a lot of time on it. Wheaton, a defense-first franchise. We'll see how that stacks up here in the early going.
On the season, Chicago's attempted, of their 278 field goal attempts, 112 are from behind the arc. And for Wheaton, it's 106 out of 284. So a pretty similar rate of attempts from three-point land for both teams.
That was Alec Bryan missing the 3 on the kick out by the Joe Barry offensive rebound. Now Wheaton into their first set. This is a team with a lot of new faces in the starting lineup as TJ Askew converts from the stripe. But probably a little further ahead defensively is Wheaton than they are offensively. That's going to take a number of more games, I would think, as Thomas Karowski's pass sails over the outstretched arm of Preston and out of bounds.
Yeah, you see the Thunder on the season holding opponents to 60.6 a game and just a shade above 40% from the floor and 30% from the arc. So impressive numbers the Thunder putting up at that end of the floor early.
Another interesting nuance in today's game, Wheaton has 2 starters who played their high school basketball for former roommates of mine. We'll talk about that in a second as Chavallo's 3 sails long and is corralled by Considine. Cruikshank to Scott. He'll try from downtown and he'll convert. Wheaton takes an early 5-0 lead. He's one of the 2 guys who played for a former roommate of mine, Doug Scheid at Annapolis Christian. The other is Nick Chiavello, who played at Columbus North for Paul Ferguson, a former mentor of yours, Owen.
Ferg's put together a very nice run at Columbus North over the past decade or so. One of the largest high school gyms in the world.
Oh, a nice backdoor feed there from Karowski to Barry. Wheaton can be a little subject to those as they play a very aggressive denial defense on the wing. If you're going to beat them, you're often going to beat them with that backdoor. That's Askew has just roll off the rim. It looked like that was going to be another good look for the Thunder. And here come the Maroons. Another backdoor attempt there, spoiled by Bryan. Good defense by Wheaton here in the early going, and good patience by Chicago. And that's Ezra Moose, whose shot sails wide, but he corrals the rebound. And it's out to Joe Barry for the three, and we're now at 5, with about 2 minutes and 50 seconds gone by here in the first half. Scott now into the front court. Cruikshank with a good kick. Wheaton also being patient. These are two coaches, and as a result, two teams that know each other well. There won't be much that either Wheaton or Chicago do from a scouting perspective that won't be well diagnosed in advance as Askew gets the baseline and converts the layup.
And Askew really relying on that mid-range game early, kind of catching at 8 to 10 feet. He's taken a couple pull-ups and then that quick rip drive to get to the rim there.
Yeah, and a couple pull-ups with success will open up that rip drive as you get an antsy defense out in that mid-range. Ball inside to Preston. He'll kick it back out. Moas looks to find Preston on the pick and roll and fires it out of bounds. We'll get our first substitution of the day as Connor Braun, the 6'9" grad student from Tempe, checks into the game.
Schneider is also checking, and that's a couple of the new faces by transfer for the Thunder. Braun, Nate, as you mentioned, a grad student who is at Northeastern, and Schneider's from Eastern Illinois.
You're going to see that more and more commonplace as Wheaton comes back on a little pick and roll, and they convert a great pass from Cruikshank as he hits Braun. Braun converts, and he'll shoot.
Cruikshank does such a good job, Nate, of coming off those handoffs and ball screens and varying his pace out of them. You can see right there, he came full speed off that thing, stopped on a dime, and was able to find Braun on the roll.
Yeah, he does an impressive job of knowing when to create action in traffic and when to create space. And that was a great job of creating space, not drawing too much, and leaving that open area for Braun to get the three-point play. 10-5 Wheaton, we're 4 minutes in. Moas being aggressive off the dribble early, spent a little bit of time in the lane. Good dig down by Cruikshank, and it throws Preston off a little bit, but the offensive rebound is converted by Chicago.
The Thunder, an interesting spread offensively. Cruikshank leading the team at almost 19 a game, Askew at 12, and then 3 or 4 guys between 7 and 9, Considine, Chavello, Schneiders, and Scott, which makes them a difficult team to match up to when they got so many guys who are capable of putting points up like that.
Exactly right. Moose picks Braun's pocket, pressed it back the other way. A little bit of contact, uncalled. I like the way the officials are not calling this game right now, letting these guys play and letting a little bit of a flow happen. I think it'll be interesting to see as they get into the season, they get a little more comfortable with each other. You would think Cruikshank's numbers might go down a little bit, and those 3 or 4 guys at the bottom of the list will come up. I think it's going to be really good balance attack for Wheaton. That was Cruikshank finding Considine in the corner, a little bit long on that three-point attempt, and out comes Joe Barry. Kurowski gets into the paint, almost has it picked off, and manages to fall down and get it back to Preston. Here's Moas, hard off the rim, and Cruikshank looks to counter. And that's going to be the first foul on Kurowski. And again, a good example of Cruikshank altering his tempo. Very difficult to defend that.
Braun, Nate, reminiscent both in build and hairstyle of former Thunder player Jake Carwell. Couple inches taller, but similar look out there on the floor.
Lanky, although I'd say the difference, if Jake's listening, is when Braun turned sideways, you could see him. That was a big difference for Jake, who enjoyed being a banger without necessarily the typical girth you'd see out of a banger, but a great garbage man on some really good Thunder teams back in the late 2000s, and now an educator himself in the great state of Michigan.
So we're about to see, for the first time, Chicago's leading scorer, Arish Bandal, did not start tonight. He's averaging 14 a game, a big 6'9" post player, apparently under the weather. So didn't get the start, but hoping still to be an impact player this evening.
Yeah, and also of note, Chicago is missing a guy who in seasons past has been their best player, Bryce Hopkins, a 6'5" senior out of Palatine Fremd. As Considine goes backdoor, gets a nice feed on the cut from Askew, and the Thunder lead 12-9 with 14 minutes left to play in the half.
Considine does a great job of reading the back of his defender's head. When he turns to look at the ball on penetration, he just slips right by him. He makes some good money, but a basket or two every game on that same cut.
That's Skylar Twyman, who just gave it up into the game as well. Chicago making some money on the offensive boards early on, although unable to convert that one, but Bandal comes out with another rebound. That's got to be 4 or 5 offensive boards in the early going for the University of Chicago, and that's kept them in this game very tightly here. Jackson Piotrowski pulls, but he doesn't pull in time. We've got a shot clock violation. So Wheaton doing a good job defensively and forcing Chicago into some tough shots, but not doing a good enough job cleaning up the defensive glass yet here.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier, that the Thunder have sort of made their mark at the defensive end early, and we see that again here, just 9 points for the Maroons through 7 minutes.
Cruikshank rubbing off the high screen from Braun. And now it's Askew up to Considine. And Braun will pull from downtown, a little bit long on that one. Very nice job of boxing out by Skylar Twyman. And the Maroons will look to counter. Let's see if with Bandal in the game they run something that's a little bit more post-oriented. Indeed, they're looking to get the lob. Pretty nice job, though, by Braun of fronting and making that a pretty difficult pass. Oh, very nice work as Askew comes over to reject the Joe Barry offering. Wheaton coming down quickly, and Cruikshank converting in transition. I'll tell you, he's become a fixture. Seems like he's one of those guys who's been around here since like the mid-'70s.
It's on the Jess Settles plan.
He is indeed, but boy, it'll be a shame when he's gone because he brings so much pace and so much intensity to Wheaton on both ends of the floor. Chicago continuing to look for the back door, denied that time. Here's Twyman, got himself a little bit of trouble. And once again, Wheaton, I'm not going to call that an offensive board as Wheaton had corralled it and then got their pocket picked. But nonetheless, Chicago will get another turn, and we've got, I think, a little bit of shot clock confusion.
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah. He reset it to 30, Nate, exactly as you said. It looked like Wheaton had possession, and then it was popped out by Chicago. So on the possession, the shot clock reset to 30, and then it reset again on the turnover. And probably some discussion as in it looks like the officials have ruled there was no possession and it should have reset to 20.
Yeah, interesting nuance and probably one of the more challenging plays for the shot clock operator to manage, even under the eyes of the watchful eyes of scoreboard operator Bill Stukes, who also knows a thing or two about shot clocks and the difficulty of getting them replaced if you happen to break one on a Saturday. That's a story for another day, however. Back in after the shot clock confusion, counting down with 7 seconds to go on the clock. Chicago's going to be forced into another tough shot, it looks like. Joe Barry fades away with good defense by Scott. Braun pulls it out, and here come the Thunder in transition. Eddie Scott a little bit long, tipped. Chicago rebounds. It's Barry again who's been active, and Twyman brings it up. He's going to look to drive, runs into a wall with Braun, and kicks it back out. Chicago moving the ball nicely, and we're going to get our first Wheaton foul of the day on Andrew Williams out of Heritage Christian in Fishers, Indiana. Same alma mater as my freshman year teammate Tony Bucher, who had a short and somewhat unremarkable career here, but was a heck of a nice player there at Heritage Christian back in the late 80s and early 90s.
Also alma mater of former Wheaton player and assistant coach Joel Smith.
That's right. Another rebound by University of Chicago, and I'd be interested to know what the second chance points is. But of the 11 Chicago have so far, I'm betting 4 to 6 of them are on second chance opportunities. Here's Wheaton, a nice cut by Chiavello, but didn't get hit, and it's back out to Williams. Good patience by Wheaton so far. And now they're down into single digits on the shot clock. Askew will pull a little bit long, and Wheaton's home shooting woes continue. They had a rough outing against John Carroll on Saturday of last week in the finals of the Leaf Fund Classic, and they haven't gotten comfortable yet, at least this new crew of players, with the home rims here at King Arena.
And we've been talking about that offensive rebound disparity. Chicago right now has attempted 18 shots to Wheaton's 12. So Wheaton now 13, 7 of 13 from the floor. Chicago 5 of 18. And that's exclusively made up by the fact that Chicago has 7 offensive rebounds, and the Thunder have only gathered in 7 defensive rebounds. So Chicago rebounding half their misses right now.
Yeah, that's going to be something they're going to look to clean up. Well, you were commenting on that. Really nice spinning move by Eddie Scott to put Wheaton up 16-11. It looks like Twyman pushed off on that play. I thought maybe he traveled, didn't have a good look at it, but he pushed off. He's a little bit disgruntled with the call, but again, good officiating. Anytime you're 1/4 of the way through the game with 9:51 left to play in the first, and you've got a total of 4 fouls, that's the kind of game I like to see. As a guy who fouled out of 98% of my career games, a crew that'll let you play a little bit and mix it up in the painted area is a crew I will vouch for any day of the week. Now here's Wheaton back at it, leading by 5. Micah Schneiders is into the game. Cruikshank yet to have a rest. Interesting to see when they look to get him a quick breather. His level of energy probably requires a little breather at some point. Oh, and a very nice spin move by Chiavello. Drove to his right, spun back to his left, and converts. So despite the offensive rebounding disparity we've talked about, Wheaton getting the most out of their opportunities and playing good defense, holding Chicago to just 11 points so far. Alec Bryant thought about it, then put one on the floor. That seems like a case of I've got a pretty good shot. Let me see if I can make it a little less good. I think you should have pulled from the top of the key. What do you think, Coach?
You're never more open than when you first catch the ball. And guys overthink it and put it on the deck. You end up making a tougher shot.
And again, though, that was yet another second chance point for Chicago. Now Cruikshank pulling up from about 18 feet and hitting. That was a nice 2-dribble little maneuver and pull up. So we're not advocating against the pull up. I guess we're advocating for the wide open top of the key 3.
Right, indeed. Well, the Chicago now 13 points with those 8 offensive rebounds. They'd be mid-single digits right now. Their best offense at times right now is just missing a shot.
Whip it off that rim and go get it. Although, just we say that, a very nice seal by Alex Batiste. Nice entry pass by Mose, and Chicago continues to hang around. Good kick out and a good-looking shot by Chiavello. This game's getting a little more pace as these teams start to get comfortable with what's going to be available to them and what's not. Karowski with the 3, he misses. And anytime you're offensive rebounding that aggressively, you're going to get the occasional push in the back or the over the back. And I think that was the call against Alec Batiste.
Yeah, no question, Nate. Coach McGrath coaches them to crash every time. You got 3 or 4 guys going to the boards every time. Occasionally they're going to go through somebody getting there, but on balance, certainly been a positive for them so far. Yeah, that's exactly right. And for the 1 out of 5 or 6 times something gets called, you get a hand or you get a grip on something 4 or 5 other times, and it, as we've seen, creates a big difference here. Looking to dump it into Preston. You got to think Banal's not feeling great. He's probably only seen 3 to 4 minutes. Interesting to see whether he continues at that clip. As Preston's gotten most of the minutes, that's going to be a tough shot. And unfortunately, Considine bailed him out. He had Preston moving away from the basket. Was going to be forced to hit a very tough shot with the kiss off the glass.
and gave him the little bail. Just Wheaton's second foul, but Josh Preston, the Geneva product, will go to the line shooting 2.
The Thunder get so much good production out of Considine and Chiavello. You know, it's two guys who, if you look at their stats, neither of them's putting up a gaudy stat line, but they both do so many things that help a team win. We were talking about Eli's ability to read cuts earlier. He's arguably the team's most versatile defender. Those guys, it's not gaudy stats, but it's winning plays over and over from those two.
And Preston converts that one, making him 2 of 8 on the year. So he's improved his percentage there from 17% to a robust 25. No, but you're right. It's often the guy making the great first cut that opens it up for somebody else, either penetrating or cutting in behind them. Not a stat they've learned to keep yet. I'm sure the sabermetricians have something on that, as Eddie Scott has one roll in and out. And Joe Barry pushing in transition. Kick. Twyman's going to look to penetrate. He'll kick it back out to Alec Bryant. He airmails it. But once again, Preston is there for the rebound. Always tough to blame a guy for giving up an offensive rebound on the air ball.
Yeah, that's just unlucky.
Yeah, that's the one that's somewhat excusable.
Yeah, if that thing had hit the rim, Considine would have had it down, and we would have been going the other direction. Nate, I did notice Batal on the bench now with his warm-up top on, and it looks to me like he's got his hood up.
Yeah.
My guess is we're not going to see him again.
Yeah, the hood up is usually a sign that maybe some chills. They move him down from the rest of the team probably for that reason. He may be done for the day. Preston converts his second free throw. He's now 2 of 3 and cuts the Wheaton lead to 6, 23-17 with 6.5 minutes to play. And what's been a pretty brisk first half so far.
Yeah, it's moving quickly. Considine sitting with 2 now. My guess is we won't see him again this half.
Preston settles for 1 of 2. And here comes Cruikshank. Over to Chiavello. He's patient, dumps into Braun. Chicago doubled immediately into good effect, as Braun almost lost it, but Chiavello was able to contain it near midcourt. And now Wheaton facing some shot clock challenges again. Really good kick from Cruikshank. A nice look for Askew, but he's short on it. I think Wheaton's had better looks from 3 than what their stat line will show when we see these 3 stats at the half.
I think one of the distinguishing features, and we won't get this stat, you know, guys are going to shoot a higher percentage when the ball comes to them off penetration and they're square versus a swing pass and they've got to square up into the shot. And we've seen a lot of square into shots and not as many squared catches out of penetration.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Cruikshank makes the cut into a little bit of traffic. Good kick to Chiavello. That one looked good all the way. It was just a little bit long. Now Wheaton getting into the offensive rebounding act. Eddie Scott rebounded. Took it hard at Joe Barry, but Joe Barry did his best Joe Barry Carroll impersonation and knocked it back, but out of bounds, and Wheaton will retain possession. 16 seconds on the shot clock. I'd like to say hello to Bill and Esther Harris listening. They've just texted in saying they were horrified when they flipped on the game and saw a couple of in-app broadcasters, but hopefully they're enjoying life down in sunny Florida, Citrus County that is. We'll give you the address if anyone wants to go visit them.
Maybe head out for breakfast at the breakfast station in Homosassa.
That's exactly right. As Cruikshank hits while we're engaging in nonsense to extend the Wheaton lead to 7. But Coach and Mrs. Harris, hope you're both doing well and hope to see you for some golf later this winter.
And that quick 3 on the baseline inbounds is off a baseline inbound set the Thunder have been running since they were the Crusaders.
Really nice pass by Alec Bryan there to Preston, but Preston gassed the layup, and they pay for it. Now Wheaton's got a little bit of a run going as Cruikshank converts his 2nd consecutive 3. Little surprised Coach McGrath didn't take a timeout there. It feels like this one's getting away ever so slightly, and the momentum is shifting to Wheaton as they've started to seal off those offensive boards a little bit more effectively. They'll go into Preston now. He'll kick across court to Barry. Barry does a nice job kicking it to Kurowski. Kurowski misses to Braun, and Wheaton's looking to go again. I love the way Cruikshank runs the break, always looking to push, but very rarely doing so irresponsibly.
Yeah, and on his last 3 came with Eddie Scott pushing on the break, and Tyson just filled the lane behind him.
That's a good pull by Scott. Cruikshank mixing it up. And I think he's going to, that'd be interesting to see. I thought Cruikshank committed the foul. It looks like they might be pinning it on Ezra Mose.
They are indeed. I didn't get a good look at that. Coach McGrath not thrilled.
Yeah, you know Coach McGrath is not happy when his complexion starts to look like his team's away jerseys, and it's creeping up in that direction as we speak. Ruddy, some would say. You know it's a break game when the arena crew doesn't have anybody on site to do the mopping up, and you've got the officials doing it. Students will be back this week, a couple weeks before the break. And the great thing about the new, well, it's not new anymore, but the new-ish CCIW schedule is we'll have CCIW action on this court well in advance of the Christmas holiday. As Askew gets turned away at the doorstep, he thought he was fouled, but the officials say, let's play on. Barry kicking it. Chicago really trying to move the ball around the perimeter crisply, but Wheaton doing a good job of getting hands on it. And a nice look from Piotrowski. Wheaton got stuck in a rotation there, it looked like.
Askew got hit by a flare screen. He was in the gap. The ball came at him. Got hit on a flare screen. And hard to know in that situation, if he didn't see it, it didn't get called out what exactly. Regardless, it led to a clean three-point catch and shoot for the Maroons.
Cruikshank hitting Scott. They look to have some good chemistry going. They seem to know each other's at. And another pull from Askew. Wheaton extends back to a 10-point lead. 3 minutes to go here in the first. I think all told, Coach Schauer's going to be pretty happy with the defensive effort. Hold the team to 22 points, half of which are second chances. You've done a good job defensively if they can close it out here. Joe Barry to drive, and absolutely not, says TJ Askew. He'll take it himself and push it. Eddie Scott, one bounce, and he's going to get called for the offensive foul. Tried to come to that jump stop and then do a little Euro step. The Euro step was closed off, and I didn't see who it was, whether it was Preston or perhaps Piotrowski who took the charge there, but a nice job of closing that off.
Yeah, Nate, in addition to the offensive rebounds, the couple other things that have been, the Thunder are giving up some of those baseline rip drives, like on the last play we saw where Askew rotated over and blocked the shot. They've got hurt a couple times on those, the one flare screen, and a couple times Schneider's has got hit on a ball screen instead of getting over. But, those are things you're going to have from time to time. The defensive effort as a whole, as you've said, exceptional.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see, and it's indicative of probably how Wheaton has spent the majority of its practice time here in the first 6 weeks of the season. Wouldn't you say it's probably a 2/3 defense, 1/3 offense kind of thing? And that's going to take a new set of teammates much longer to gel on offense than on defense. Another baseline drive turns into a good-looking open shot as Kurowski finds Mose, and he converts from the corner here, keeping Chicago in it. I know Coach Schauer and Coach Panner would love to see them open this thing up. A double-digit lead at the half is awfully good. By the same token, if you let Chicago trim this down to 3, 5, 7 points, it feels like a little bit of wasted effort through that half. Good drive by Cruikshank. He'll kick it out, and Braun buries. That was textbook.
It's fantastic. 10 seconds on the shot clock. They went to that double high ball screen. Tyson picks which way he goes. The roll drew the helper, and he found Braun in the corner.
Kurowski looking to dump it into Preston. Braun allowing it, and now he'll try to play defense. Chabello helped and almost got beat on his recovery, but did a good job of getting to the baseline before Kurowski could. Oh, and a nice move by Mose. He took Schneider's to the middle, spun back to the baseline, and converted. And once again, we've got an 8-point game, minute 13. I didn't see who took the timeout there. Was that a Schauer timeout, or was that a very unusual to see a Schauer timeout after?
At that point, my gut says it's McGrath, but I didn't see who called it.
So we alluded to the fact that these two coaches know each other very, very well. Both started coaching at their respective schools as assistants in the early to mid-'90s, and I was a player at Wheaton in those days. and there was a healthy rivalry between the two of them. A couple of young whippersnapper assistants for two kind of up-and-coming programs at the time. Bill Harris had Wheaton on the rise, and Pat Cunningham, before he departed to Trinity, really had put University of Chicago on the map with guys like Frank Reich. But there was always a healthy rivalry between who could recruit the better players, who could out-scout the other one. And I'd say over the years, these guys have become probably as good of friends as each other has in the coaching profession, although I know they're both well-known and well-liked by a lot of guys. But it started as a healthy rivalry back 25 years ago. Yeah, almost 30 years ago.
Almost 30 years ago. And now both of them sitting on the NABC Board of Directors together.
So coming out of the timeout, Wheaton will inbound. If you're Coach Schauer, and you're not currently choking to death, as Owen seems to be, what would you have told your players in that timeout?
Well, you've got a nice 2-for-1 opportunity here. You want a nice long possession. You want a great shot, either catch and shoot three. You want the ball at the rim, one or the other.
Well, now they're definitely going to have a 2-for-1 opportunity. Well, almost definitely, as Karowski ran through the screen. Amazingly, though, neither team yet in the bonus. That was only the 6th foul on Chicago. So Wheaton will inbound with 20 seconds on the clock. They'll run this down probably into the mid-40s. And Owen, to your point, they will get 2 of the last 3 looks, barring any offensive rebounding debacles of this first half. Cruikshank comes off the Braun screen, has it poked away, and kicks across court to Scott. Now back to Cruikshank. He'll look to penetrate. Does a good job warding off the initial talent. Extra pass by Scott. Oh, and a good look by Chiavello, but it kind of pops out of there, and then Andrew Williams cleans it up and converts on the offensive board.
Yeah, knowing Mike, dollars to donuts, that timeout was more about this end of the floor and exhorting the team to get a defensive stop, get the rebound the first miss, and finish the half with the ball in their possession.
They dump it into Preston Braun behind him. Preston really not looking to make an aggressive post move, but unfortunately, Braun loses sight of him, helping on the drive. And Most kicks it to Preston, who finishes emphatically at the rim. 7.8 seconds remaining. We'll get an offensive substitution as Askew comes from Eddie Scott. For Eddie Scott, Schauer probably looking to ride what was a relatively hot hand from downtown by Askew through the first 20 minutes of this game. Now ready, Chiavello will inbound. Cruikshank lets it bounce a couple of times to conserve about a half second. Good kick to Braun. He takes a big step, goes to the rim, and a nice little teardrop shot as time expires in the first. So Wheaton will indeed take that 10-point lead into halftime. And all in all, a well-played half. We'll be back. We're going to send it to break. Owen and I are going to jump on our oxygen tanks. We'll be back in about 14 minutes with the second half of Thunder basketball. But in the meantime, back to the studio.
Humble leaders, adventurous thinkers, faithful believers. For Christ and his kingdom, Wheaton stands at the forefront of Christian liberal arts education. Here, we facilitate an unparalleled journey for our students, bringing together deep faith and intelligence to pursue their most ambitious callings. At Wheaton, reaching God-given potential is never accomplished alone. From coaches on the field to professors in the classroom, we come together to make space for students to wrestle with timeless questions and pursue biblically informed, thoughtful wisdom as they pursue academic, artistic, and athletic excellence. We are one of the nation's colleges that change lives, because that is exactly what we do. We live, work, serve, and worship together as an educational community centered on Jesus and reflecting the beautiful diversity of His kingdom. It's collaborative, immersive, Christ-centered. Our enduring model, with twin traditions of quality academics and deep faith, along with a faculty of Christian thought leaders and a staff of dedicated believers, allows us to champion the true essence of the Christian liberal arts educational experience. Continuing the legacy lived out by iconic thinkers and evangelical luminaries around the globe, Wheaton integrates and connects disciplines through Christian thought, diverse peers, and contemporary global context. Here, adventurous thinkers and faithful believers come together to create a mosaic of diverse backgrounds, beliefs, and hopes. It's a place of curiosity and conviction, a place to live out your values and pursue your ambitions. Except here, it's not only about what you can achieve. It's about who you can become. Living out our calling with heart and skill through Christ-centered leadership. At Wheaton, you don't have to settle. We call ourselves Thunder because, like thunder, the Wheaton Network is a force moving through Him and for Him to build the church and benefit society worldwide. Like rolling thunder, God's mighty voice calls us to be humble leaders, adventurous thinkers, and faithful believers for Christ and His kingdom.
I think one of the fun things about deciding where to go to college is that all of your peers are in kind of the same place. Remember, other people have done this, other people have gone before me and will come after me and are going through it with me now, but it's not as isolating as it may feel. I didn't really know what I was looking for at first. It started with me just scrolling through website after website of colleges. I knew I wanted something that was medium-sized. I knew that I wanted a strong natural sciences department. I knew that I wanted to be challenged academically inside the classroom, but I also didn't want life to stop in the classroom. I'm grateful that I was able to visit as many schools as I did. A large part of my decision to attend Wheaton was influenced by my campus visit. What instantly stood out to me was that everyone on campus was smiling. I felt welcomed, I felt appreciated, seen, and wanted. And so the application process itself was really joy-filled. The decision process was quite a different story. I got the decisions and acceptances and rejections back, and rejections stung. I became very stressed. I started to question, do I want to keep going to school? Do I want to go far? Do I want to come closer to home? And that's where I really started to ask, okay, what are the options remaining before me? And Wheaton was again at the top. I started to work with Ellen, my admissions counselor. I just worked with her really closely and had several hour-long phone calls just talking through what does a Wheaton education look like, what is the value of a Wheaton education, and got to have personal conversations and interactions. So even during a time that was really stressful, I felt valued and seen as a whole person rather than just a GPA and test scores.
When you're looking at colleges, you may look at the sticker price and say to yourself, I'm not applying to that school because I can't afford it. And I would caution you to not close any doors because there is this price tag that is just out of reach. Cost is an important factor, but there's so many other factors to consider. At Wheaton College, we offer academic scholarships as well as Wheaton Grant, which is need-based aid from the college. So a student may receive scholarships in the range of $10,000 to full tuition. They may also receive significant Wheaton Grant based on need, and we determine that, like most institutions do, based on the information that is found on the free application for federal student aid. Colleges aren't commodities. They're not all the same. And there'll be value questions that you have to ask along the way. There's value in knowing that Wheaton alumni have done very well across the board. That we have students from 50 states and over 160-year history. There's value in that. But I also think there's value in the fact that you will be with a group of peers who are excellent in their academic endeavors, but also who love Jesus Christ. You are not just a student who is performing well in the classroom, but that you are a person that has great potential to serve God's kingdom. You're going to be challenged to grow in your faith because you want to be tested and you want to understand what your theological non-negotiables are. So think about the community you're going to be a part of and how they're going to engage you. We want to challenge you to think about why you believe what you believe by people who will encourage you and motivate you. This is an investment that has strong return, not just for you in terms of career, but for you as a follower of Jesus Christ who will be called to great things. Let us work closely with your family. Let us find out more. We work with great expectation and with hope. We do not want to give up on your calling to be at Wheaton College.
Christian friendship is an extremely strong form of evangelism. Jesus himself told us that in John, that others will know us by our love.
One of the reasons I went to Wheaton is to get some Christian brothers and some friends that, could go a lot deeper and we could share our faith and we can talk about what does it mean to live kingdom and be friends with the element of worship, with the element of stewardship.
Rigby liked soccer and so did I. Quinn's a really hysterical human being and I like hanging out with him. And let me tell you, if you ever want to talk to somebody about an important issue, there's nobody better to just come alongside you and throw their arm around you than Taylor. I mean, how are you not supposed to get along with guys like this? And suddenly you find yourself 6 months, 4 years, 20 years later, and you're still friends with them. And it's great.
We have laughed a lot together, and we have also cried a lot together. And just to be able to go through this with dear friends is crucial.
For me, having that in my life and having those guys that, were different, but we had the same love of Jesus in our lives was really important to me.
For me, personally, as a missionary that lives overseas, to know that I'm not alone is massive. It gives me a huge support. I really love Jesus. I'm convinced that his words have life. And I think he's invited us to bring hope to a world that's broken. And I don't think that's an easy task. And I cannot do that on my own.
Knowing that these friendships are, yes, they're earthly friendships, but they're going to move beyond that to be celebrating life with Jesus is just such a beautiful thing and something that I really hold on to dearly.
One of the great things about life in Christ is the invitation to do life together in community, and Wheaton provided the foundation to create friendships that I knew I wanted to have for a lifetime.
Someone who is insatiably curious will thrive in a Christian liberal arts environment. Being a Christian liberal arts student causes you to expect to encounter God and expect to encounter dialogue with other disciplines. I think it creates a posture of wonder, and that's just a great thing for every aspect of life. I was in Calc 1, and my professor was having us read through Romans 12 in Calc 1. And it really invited me to see God at work and to prepare my heart, even in those first few minutes of class, to recognize and say, God is here, and do I have eyes to see him? And do I have eyes to see the way that he's at work? They don't say that any discipline is off limits from God, or that God is off limits from any discipline. Wheaton really does prime you to be a very well-rounded student that's able to think about questions from many different angles and not just provide a cookie-cutter answer, but really engage with content in a deep and meaningful and intentional way. I got one-on-one time with professors, and they not only cared about my studies, but they also cared about my spiritual well-being and about how I was doing personally. The opportunity to have professors that are spiritual mentors and have PhDs in Old Testament or quantum mechanics or poverty and international relations is amazing. And you get the opportunity to interact with so many other students of different disciplines that all love Jesus and want to love and worship him in what they do. And that's amazing too. And I love Wheaton. Wheaton invited me to dig deep into both the scientific learning I was doing and dig deep into my faith. I have grown in my ability to offer all of myself to the practice that I'm doing as an act of worship. That's what the Christian liberal arts can help form in you, is to do everything to the glory of God.
And welcome back to King Arena. We're coming up on the second half. Wheaton in relative control, leading 39-29. Owen, what's the stat sheet tell us?
Well, Cruikshank, no surprise, leading the way for the Thunder with 10 points on a perfect 4 of 4 from the floor. Askew with 7, Chavello and Scott with 5 apiece. The Thunder's second leading scorer right now, Connor Braun, who's looking as comfortable out there as he has. As you know, every day in practice, he's getting a little more comfortable with what they're doing. For the Maroons, it's Mose with 7, Barry with 9, and nobody else with more than 4. So the big, as we talked about, the big gap, the offensive rebounding gap, tightened. It was 8-1 at one point in favor of the Maroons. The Thunder corralling 4 more and closing that deficit. So 9 for Chicago, 5 for the Thunder in the first half.
Well, we'll see if Wheaton can pick up where they left off. They finished with a little bit of a flurry, and they'll come out looking to pick that up. First 3 to 5 minutes of a half. Second half, especially with a 10-point lead, always seem critical to me. You can pull away, or you can let them right back in it. That Cruikshank shot will go long, so Wheaton comes up empty on the first possession. But how do you think about coming out of the gate with a 10-point lead?
Well, exactly as you said, Nate. I mean, you're going one way or the other. Rarely is it going to sit right at 10. The way you approach it mentally is, again, really to think about limiting Chicago to 1 shot or less, making sure that some of the ways they beat you, maybe that aren't natural elements of your, weaknesses of your defense. Limit their second shots and make sure you're taking the right shots at the offensive end.
Preston is fouled, and that was almost a mirror image replay of the foul Considine committed in the first half guarding Preston on the drive, and that's Considine's third foul. He had Preston pretty well walled off and just needed to kind of ride him to the baseline. Instead, he kind of leaned into him, and he picks up a costly third foul. Here's Kurowski fading away and coming up short. Scott with the rebound, and he'll look to counter in short order. Finds Chiavello, I should say, underneath the hoop. And a good break opportunity, extending the Wheaton lead to 12. Kurowski up top, throws it to Most, back to Kurowski. He'll dump it into Preston, who pulls up. Looks like he might have had a little bit of a lane, but kicks it out to Alec Bryan, and Bryan long on the three-point attempt. Here come the Thunder behind Cruikshank.
And Wheaton lucky there. It looked like Eddie Scott just lost him as he cut to the top there, and Chicago misses, but a great look out of that possession.
Yeah, Bryan's not going to miss many of those. Chiavello on the kick from Cruikshank. He hits. Wheaton now leads 44-29. Almost 2 minutes gone by here in the second half at King Arena. A little bit of a sparse crowd tonight, but some luminaries. We saw, I think, inarguably Wheaton's all-time greatest player, Mel Peterson, here. And early on, as Preston misses and then is fouled by Braun, falling out of bounds. Early on, we also saw what I would say was Wheaton's most famous player, former Laker coach Randy Fund. Also want to say hello to another of Wheaton's all-time greats listening at home in West Michigan, Tom Dykstra. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving, and hope Matt Nadelhofer didn't eat too much of the dark meat. I know he can be a little bit of a turkey hog, but hopefully there was enough to go around. As Preston converts the first, also want to say hi to the Leamy family listening in Glen Ellen. I think one-year-old Sailor may have gone to bed early, but I think Harper's still up. So thanks for staying with us here on the Wheaton Sports Network. Here's Preston second, and he's been 1 for 2 on all 3 trips to the line, 3 of 6 all day. But his free throw does cut the Wheaton lead to 14. Scott now dealing at the top of the key. Braun thought about pulling up, but puts it in his pocket. And a nice move to the baseline by Askew. But he comes up a little bit short on that reverse.
Yeah, really looking at, we've been talking about early in the half, the Thunder have really had a good shot decision on every possession. They haven't really taken a bad shot yet. They haven't given up any second chance opportunities to the Maroons, but 3 quick fouls has put them a little behind the 8 ball here.
And it's interesting to me. I think of the 3 fouls, 1, maybe 2 of them must call, but you do feel like, and I'm a man who's looked and dissected refereeing in just about every way possible. Second half seemed to be called a little bit tighter for whatever reason. I don't know whether that was intentional, as Cruikshank does a good job of getting the passing lane. He's going to go coast to coast and does a nice job of switching hands to overcome the Preston challenge. But I'm always interested. It seems like second halves get called. I know as a man who's really never had a beef with an official or had to attend anger management for any issues he's had with officials, you may not spend as much time thinking about this, but you care to weigh in on that hypothesis?
I think just as teams talk at halftime, the crew's talking at halftime about they're evaluating their first half, how they called the game, and if there are things that they need to keep an eye on coming out. The 3 Thunder fouls, the Considine foul was an obvious one,
yeah,
and the Eddie Scott foul was an obvious one. That was a forearm on a ball handler. That's an automatic whistle. The call on Connor Braun, I don't know. We didn't have a good look at it. Certainly could have been a foul. So I don't know. I mean, to me, those were it was a clump of fouls. I don't know that it was reflected a change in officiating. I don't know that it reflected anything other than over the period of a game, those things are never going to be a consistent. You don't foul at a consistent pace, right?
So what you're saying, if I can boil it down for the audience, is that the officials always seem to do a little bit better job when you're sitting on this side of the court.
No question.
We're back out of the timeout. Mike McGrath thought slipping away, called that timeout. He's going to look to get a good possession here. They lob it in, and they're going to get Chicago's Jackson Petrowski with the offensive foul. I don't know that I saw that one either. I thought, if anything, he may have been camped in the lane a little bit too long. Nonetheless, Wheaton will take it. Good to get a stop coming out of the opponent's timeout.
Scott handling the ball coming up leads me to believe we might be getting a set to
They were
Cruikshank.
looking to get Cruikshank coming off of a set Wheaton's run for a very long time. All the nomenclature I've long since forgotten, but that's one that's been in their arsenal for a long time. Oh, very nice job. Very nice job by Chiavello. If I didn't know better, I would think Paul Ferguson might have been spending a little bit of practice time teaching post moves down there at Columbus North, but that seems highly unlikely. Maybe the DiVenzio. Oh, really nice job by Askew getting in, and an even better job by Petrowski to recover and alter the shot. A little more frenetic pace here since the timeout.
I'm surprised that wasn't a dunk from Askew.
I think he's probably regretting that he didn't do it. I think a little bit timid in the approach and a little more aggressive move, I think would have either gotten him the foul call and or the bucket.
And now you start to the fourth foul on the Thunder. You've got Considine on the bench with 3. You've got Eddie Scott with 2. So you don't have deep foul trouble, but 4 in 4 minutes, you start to wonder about if the bonus is going to come into play, and if so, when.
And it's going to come in pretty early. The other theory I have on officiating is it's very difficult to get more than 3 or 4 fouls ahead of your opponent. So don't be surprised if subconsciously these even out here on the next couple of calls, unless Wheaton commits some boneheaded obvious ones. Petrowski misses the first. He'll come back for the second. And you have to say the Maroon foul shooting has been a little bit of a problem. Probably cost him 4 or 5 points here in the early going. He hits the second, 1 of 2. 48-31 is the score. The Thunder are leading. We're 4 minutes into the second half here at King Arena on an unseasonably warm night here in the west suburbs of Chicago. And there's the first of those calls coming as Cruikshank pulls up on the 3.
And really an unnecessary foul there. It was who is that, 23? That's Kurowski got caught underneath that screen and just over-recovered. Didn't give Tyson the room to come down.
Well, and there's a different level of panic when you're recovering to a guy like Cruikshank. Seasoned veteran, good shooter, and a guy that rides momentum pretty effectively for the Thunder. So Kurowski knew he was beat, and I think panicked a little bit and committed the foul. Cruikshank converts the first 2. Can he knock in all 3?
And you know, a core on the scouting report was not giving him those clean looks.
No, that's exactly right. So good job by Cruikshank, extending the Wheaton lead to 20. Mike's got to feel good about that, although this is a dangerous team. A little less dangerous tonight with Arish Bandal out. He's come back in, though, here. Probably going to try to ride him maybe for as long as they can in one stint, and it'll be interesting to see if they copy what they did in the first half. Oh, really nice backup by Kurowski. Schneider's got his head turned for just a second, and Kurowski was able to slip past him down the lane and convert a really nice pass. Wheaton tries their own backdoor magic, and it's turned away. Oh, he got away with a little push-off, did Joe Barry, but crafty enough to get away with it and converted. Kept Braun, I think, from getting in there and altering that shot pretty dramatically.
Yeah. You wonder if Coach McGrath trying to catch lightning in a bottle here with Bandal. Down 20, roll him out there and see if it gets you a little spark.
A little bit now or never, right?
Yeah.
Good little hesitation dribble by Askew. He thought he was fouled. The officials say no. And Twyman will bring it up over to Kurowski. Now Bandal at the top of the key. Joe Barry will come off of that little ball pick. And now Bandal looking to post, not getting great spacing, and the Thunder helping. Cruikshank down in the paint. Don't want to let Bandal get going here. Kurowski tried to go backdoor again. Instead, ball gets skipped to Barry. Twyman thought he had a rebound, but Williams came in and claimed it for the Thunder.
Williams is one of those guys who the ball seems to find on rebounds. He's just always under where the ball comes down.
Not only did the ball find him, but Braun found him there on a nice little cut. The ball went into Braun. Seemed like the entirety of the defense collapsed on him, and Andrew Williams was the beneficiary with a good cut, a nice pass, and converting. Wheaton 53, University of Chicago 35. Had a chance to visit with Elmhurst coach John Baines at the half, and he was a little bit demure about how good his team would be, but coming off of a run to the national title game, you got to believe they're going to be probably the class of the CCIW this year.
Yeah, and I don't think they've played a game yet this year under 20 points. They've been winning by 30 consistently here in the early going.
Baines is another guy who's followed the route of the assistant. He was a very capable assistant, great recruiter under Mark Shearer. They had some wonderful teams back in the early to mid-2000s. And when Mark Shearer took a temporary retirement before coming out of it, I think to go first to Eureka and then to Milliken. Or maybe, did he coach at Eureka, or was he more on the
I think he was on the administrative staff there, yeah.
Anyway, John Baines came on, and how long has John been at Elmhurst? He's done just an excellent job turning that program into a perennial, not only CCIW powerhouse, but a team that you almost think starts the year with at least Sweet 16 aspirations. Much like the Wheaton Thunder.
No question. He's got a pair of guards who can really, really defend.
Out of the timeout, here comes Chicago. Most kicks it to Kurowski, looking to go to Bandal. Wheaton is really packing it in on Bandal, and so Kurowski opts for the three, which comes up short, and Williams brings it up. Oh, great job by Cruikshank. Just kind of weaving his way down the baseline, not rushing it, taking an inch. And then when they collapsed on him, another really nice cut by Williams and another bucket for the Thunder.
Nate, a lot of fun right now to watch Considine playing a little cat and mouse game with Bandal in there for position, but whistled for his fourth foul.
Yeah, it's just one of those nights. It's a little bit like in golf. I don't know if you've noticed. You put the ball in the sand trap on the first hole, and you find sand traps pretty much all day, all the way around. Considine picked up a foul early and just seems to be in the wrong place a lot of the wrong times, and he's got his fourth.
Yeah, we're going to get a look at the much ballyhooed freshman Cole Reed checking in at the table for the Thunder. So he'll take, looks like he'll probably take a run at defending Bandal.
Yeah, a lot of good things. Mike Schauer was texting myself and Andy Wheely saying, hey, I think I've got the next Nate Frank and Andy Wheely, and we're like, well, if that's in the rebounding and being a halfway decent basketball player, that's a good thing. But if it's in his social life with the co-eds as a Wheaton College undergrad, I feel very sorry for the young man.
I was gonna debate whether or not that was a compliment, but I didn't even have to. You did it yourself. What a cut by Andrew Williams.
He has really done a nice job of running this offense, and that should have been a bucket for him there. They just didn't quite see him in time, and it had closed up by the time they did. So better safe than sorry, especially with an 18-point lead. Shot clock down to 7 seconds. Cruikshank pulling with the kiss off the glass. Not sure that was intended, but he'll go back, get the defense set. And he's put Wheaton up 21, 12:51 left to play here in the ballgame. Nice cut by Joe Barry, but he runs into some help. Throws a little bit of a low pass in the direction of Alec Bryan, and ricochets out of bounds off the Thunder. And here comes Braun back in the game. So we got the briefest of looks at the young 6'8 freshman out of Waco, Cole Reed, and now Braun is back in the game. So it'll be interesting to see. They're very high on Reed, coming off a bit of an injury early on, so they're probably going to be careful with him, especially with conference play looming in the not-too-distant future.
He did not appear to get that shot off.
No, it was very close. I think they were going to give him the shot. Wheaton almost turns it over in the backcourt, and Williams will now set the offense. They're going to run, I think Laker was the call there.
Yeah, it's a little cross screen for Braun.
Dump it in. Now they'll clear it out and let him go to work. I like the job he did there of letting the defense clear, and almost the second really good bounce off the backboard, but the ball hits the shot clock. I think that was Chavello on the attempt, if I'm not mistaken.
It was Chavello. Braun deploying the old Jerry Gilsdorf advice, catch, chin, look middle, and delivering a great pass out to Chiavello.
Maybe a little too unselfish. Would have liked to have seen him go to the baby hook. Andrew Williams having himself a half. That's his 6th point as he jumped way out in the passing lane and then took that thing coast to coast. The small but vocal Thunder crowd is getting into it. The second tip pass, and boy, do I like the effort there. TJ Askew getting out in the passing lane, knocking it out of bounds. Thought he might have knocked it off of Alec Bryan.
Well, Cruikshank goes to the bench, gets a breather, and the energy level has not dropped at all for the Thunder.
No, that's what you like. And when you got a guy like Williams who's seen just the spottiest of minutes his first 3 years here, now getting a chance to play some good minutes in relief as a senior, and he's really showing he knows what he's doing out there. Another offensive rebound for Chicago, but there's Williams yet again. Sticking his nose in there and coming away with a good pass there to Bryan, or to Braun. He kicks it rink wide, as they say in the NHL, to Schneiders, who just comes up a little bit short on the 3-point attempt from the corner. And what a game he's having. Big smile from the senior from Fishers, Indiana, as he does a beautiful job of drawing the offensive foul. And just like that, the fouls have evened out 5-3. Eddie Scott back in the game for the Thunder. He'll control the ball coming across the timeline.
And sometimes, you've got a player who's so offensively dominant like Cruikshank. To take him off the floor gives the rest of your team a chance to develop an identity, because when he's out there, everybody naturally defers to him. And what you need is players who are going to develop the confidence to make plays and not defer all the time. That's
an excellent point. Coach Schauer has to enjoy that. Now, we'll see how long he's willing to leave him there. I think as long as the lead stays in the 20s, I think he's probably thinking the exact same thing. Let's let this team develop a little bit of an identity, and just like that shows you how little I know about my former teammate. Cruikshank checks back.
I was going to say, it looked like Scott got banged on the knee, and he's just going to check in with a trainer and get looked at. So I think you're right on, Nate. That Cruikshank probably wasn't coming back in until that happened.
Oh, nice little play. Remind me the name of that one. Just a little curl.
Isn't that Noodle?
I think that was Noodle. In any event, it pays dividends for Askew as Williams hits him on the inbound and he converts. Leads now 25 as we approach the halfway point of the second half of play. Alex Batiste with the ball. He kicks it over to Twyman. Twyman now out to Mose. Mose hits. That was a much-needed three by Chicago, who have to feel like if they don't make a run here in the next couple of minutes, this one's on ice.
That was a surprisingly youthful mistake by a couple of veteran Thunder defenders there, both getting sucked to the drive and nobody staying home on the shooter popping out.
Handoff from Braun to Williams. He looks maybe at hitting Cruikshank on the top. Now he'll go to Chiavello. Chiavello spinning back towards the middle. Oh, just came up a little bit short, but a nice little move.
To borrow a term from DePaul coach Rusty Lloyd, Chiavello is a methodical driver. He's not a guy who's going to catch rip and beat you with his first step, but he's methodical enough, uses his body well to get to the rim.
He just kind of keeps taking up slack as he goes, and he's looking always to kind of get you going one way, turn that body the other way, and it's very effective. In that case, he got himself into beautiful shooting position and just came up a hair or two short on the spin move layup. Now here's Twyman. Preston doesn't like Preston's post position, which is about 18 feet away from the basket as it appears right now, so he'll opt not to pass it in. Instead, Preston will pull from downtown and hits the side of the rim and kind of the bottom of the backboard. Not the most attractive look of the night. Now Mose misses just a little bit long from the near side wing.
Preston's confident look when he released that belied by the outcome. He was 0 of 1 on the season coming in. I can't imagine that's high on Coach McGrath's shot selection chart.
But boy, he certainly feathered that up there, and I thought it was going to be nice. I was about to say better decision than dumping it into his poor post position. Williams blocked the first time, blocked the second time. Thought he was fouled, may have lost a contact, or may have been just scraped across the face. A little slow getting back on defense, but now he's back into the fray as Chicago wasn't able to convert on the break. Oh, good-looking effort, spoiled as Batiste looked to hit back door, but Cruikshank got his head around in time to stop that pass.
It's gotten a little sloppy at both ends right here. The Thunder really need to get a defensive stop here and have a good quality, disciplined offensive possession. They don't need a score. They need a good shot.
No, you're right. And often you'll see that at this stage of the game, they start playing a little fast and loose like they did there, although Schneiders will go to the line on the foul. And on the other hand, you've got Chicago getting a little frantic, getting a little bit panicked, feeling like they're running out of time, and frankly not feeling a whole lot of confidence. That last shot was a good case in point of that as Batiste kind of rushed it from about 5 feet out of the baseline, where a little bit more of the Chevello school methodical drive I think would have served him well. Schneiders converts his first. We'll get a couple of Wheaton subs. Eddie Scott's knee feeling better. He comes back in. And TJ Askew, the grad student from Santa Fe Christian in San Diego, also checks back into the game.
Wasn't Santa Fe Christian the alma mater of Marcus' son?
It was. There's a long line of Wheaton athletes from Santa Fe Christian. In fact, I think a couple Wheaton women's soccer players, national champions, also went to Santa Fe Christian. I know Kira Davis attended there. So there's a nice pipeline. In fact, there's a good representation of former Wheaton athletes in the San Diego area. Probably most notably, former Wheaton football player Eric Grupner, who is today the president of the San Diego Padres. So good Wheaton presence. I'm not sure why anybody would leave San Diego to come to Wheaton, but we're sure glad they do. And survive these winners here as Cruikshank continues his ways, pulling from three and extending the Wheaton lead to 66-40. Want to say hello to Tyler Peters watching and listening. Another Wheaton great who's had the misfortune of tuning into the substitute broadcast tonight, but we hope he's enjoying it nonetheless. And a tough call there. It looks like that one's going to go against Nick Chevello.
Now, we'll thank Thunder Sports Information Director Brett Marhenka. Wheaton's largest win over the University of Chicago, a 31-point win. A 31-point win. It's probably early to put that in the crosshairs.
It's a little early. It'll be interesting to see with 7:31 remaining and Considine coming back into the game. It certainly doesn't look like Mike is thinking about going any deeper on his bench at this point. I would say that it's pretty much been a hallmark of Wheaton coaches to be a little conservative. We've seen some wild games here at King Arena, and so we're going to see this group on the floor for at least the next 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes, I would say.
And correction, that was a 32-point win in 2008. I'll tell you what, though, sometimes that's a sign of respect to your opponent. You look up at the clock and you start to think what could go wrong in the next 5 minutes playing a team of this caliber and a coach of this caliber. It's tough to pull the trigger on taking your players off the floor too early.
No, that's exactly right. Jackson Piotrowski, I think, got away with the first little shuffle there in the paint and got called with the second lift of the pivot foot. He gets called for traveling, and Wheaton will bring the ball up with 7 minutes left to go. 66-42 is your score. Considine, I'm sure, would like to get going. There's nothing that feels more kind of choppy or truncated than a game where you've been in foul trouble all game. And I know he'd love to just find a little rhythm. Probably important as conference play is just around the corner. Schneiders misses from the near side wing. Chicago rebounds, and out they come. Not looking to push too aggressively as I say that, Joe Barry accelerates into the paint, kicks back out to Twyman, who throws it to Preston up top. He'll swing it to the far side wing, and Petrowski's shot goes in and out. Wheaton still looking to push on the break. Here's Considine. Let's see if he can get it going. No, just a little bit short from that attempt in the corner, and it looks like McGrath wants to talk it over. So when you're down 24, you got 6:10 to play. You're off to a 3-2 start. A couple good wins, a couple not so good. Yeah, how much are you teaching in this timeout? How much are you telling your team to finish it with pride? What's the messaging?
I think it depends a little bit on the mix of your players. If you've got mostly youngsters, I think you're approaching the timeouts a whole lot different than if you got veterans, right? I mean, And Coach McGrath, I think, has a couple of youngsters that are playing quite a bit for him, and a couple of his most important players sitting. So really at this point, you don't want to give up on the game. At the same time, you want to look for what are the things you're trying to get out of your youngsters, what are the things you're focusing on, growth areas for them. And then on top of that, are there certain things you're trying to develop with those two guys out? Do you have a third scorer who's got to be your leading scorer right now, and you want to see him getting through certain actions or finding certain shots? Or do you have maybe a couple of those freshmen are guys you would like to see grow into more central players? Well, here's a chance to run some stuff to them, maybe to have a matchup on defensive matchups they wouldn't get earlier in the game and see how they do.
Yeah, especially against Wheaton's first unit here. As long as they're in, this is great real-time game situations for the team. Reminder to stick around for the post-game show. We're going to try to set the record. We're going to try to keep Mike Schauer here for a good 10 minutes. I mean, we're going to go deep. We're going to ask him a lot of questions. If I have to wrestle him to the ground, we're going to keep him. The abbreviated post-game show, not pleasing. So stick around. We'll try to keep him here as long as we can. Good post up there.
There you go.
A nice entry pass. Petrowski to Joe Barry, and Barry gets the bucket to trim the lead to 22.
And Barry, a freshman, but very well put together. So you see coming out of that timeout, he's a guy who can post up other guards. He's got the physique to do that, come out of the timeout, run the post up, throw it into him.
Nice cut there by Eddie Scott. I think he gets his first points of the half, if I'm not mistaken. Don't have the stats right here in front of me. But he's been solid all the way around. Kurowski pulling a little bit of an ill-advised fadeaway shot. Got a little bit impatient there, it looked like. The Thunder rebound, and they'll come back under control. Good curl by Cruikshank. Boy, he does a nice job of getting in the paint. And even when he's moving at a pace that's out of control, he always seems to be well in control, and he never seems to panic in traffic. That's one of the things I've always appreciated about his game.
And Cruikshank now with 21 on the night. He's missed only one shot, which was a pull-up three-pointer late on a shot clock.
And just as you say that, he gets a little bit of a bailout on a shot that was less than well-advised, I would say. Managed to beat Barry. Preston did come in and just kind of tick him a little bit. That's one you got to let him shoot. I mean, he's flailing across the lane. Although, to your point, he's barely missed tonight, so I wouldn't have been surprised if he would have found out a way to bury that. But he'll shoot 2. Fouls have evened out. Wheaton's committed 7 this half. Chicago has committed 6. So my theory continues to hold true. Very hard to get more than a 2 or 3 foul lead without the officials feeling like, hey, we probably need to even this out a little bit. And the fouls have evened out. But to your point earlier, I think it's been a well-officiated game. Anytime you're down to 5 minutes and the teams are just getting into the bonus, I like the fact that the officials have let them play tonight.
It's been a cleanly played game too. It's not like we're out here, there aren't optional fouls to be called either, right? I mean, it's not like we're seeing a lot of contact that's going uncalled. It's just been a very cleanly played and officiated game.
Yeah. Good kick out, most drives. Oh, they're going to call it on the floor.
Looks like that's going to be on. Askew was trying to slip over the top of that post. I would have argued maybe you had an offensive displacement as the Chicago post player rode Askew out as he tried to get over him, but what do I know?
Yeah, didn't get a good look at the replay. Was still looking for the official, so tough to say there. But they'll convert the first one. I think Ezra Most was still under the impression he had converted the bucket when in fact the officials had waved it off. He was kind of hopping and skipping back down court after that make, thinking he converted the three-point play. Now he'll just try to convert the second of 2 foul shots. He comes up a little bit short. Foul shooting continuing to plug the University of Chicago. I don't think it would be a game changer, but what have they shot from the foul line here?
Let me just refresh the stats here. They are 8 of 12, it looks like. 9 of 13 for the game.
So not abysmal, but not the level of foul shooting you normally expect out of this Maroon team.
Ahead of their season average of 60, not quite 66%. They're not a great free throw shooting franchise. The Thunder, on the other hand, 7 of 8 from the line tonight and shooting 72.5 on the season.
Well, and just like that, we jinx Eddie Scott into missing the front end of the one-on-one. He had gotten fouled on the most foul shot miss. There's a good rebound by Chavello, who continues to have a nice game today. He's been in the mix on a lot of stuff. Been around the ball defensively, good job on the glass, and taking advantage of his offensive opportunities. Oh, really nice pass by Considine, and Askew hits the ground hard. He made a nice cut, came up empty, and I don't know whether it was Preston or Mose who committed the foul.
That was that John's cut that they get on the backside when they, put the ball on the wing, down screen, reject the down screen, and just duck under the defender. And Askew made a great cut there, made a tough catch on the pass, and just undercut as he went up.
Looks to be a little shaken up, but he'll stay in the game and he'll get a chance to shoot 2 foul shots. Tim McCrary checking in. Former Wheaton College All-American, new Trier product, now a resident of Chicago's north side, probably 10, 12 miles north of the University of Chicago, but probably not all that far from Mike McGrath, who resides on Chicago's north side.
And actually, the player who once lodged a basketball into the, the east scoreboard here in King Arena, in a fit of pique.
Yeah, the only scoreboard, really, I can only remember 2 acts of blatant vandalism perpetrated by a Wheaton player during my days coaching and playing. One was McCrary bashing in the scoreboard. The other was Luke Moo punching through a window after a tough loss in the old configuration of what was then Centennial Gymnasium, where they had these square windows made out of relatively thin glass, and amazingly was relatively unscathed by that. I still remember I thought he was going to be bleeding out, and just the merest of cuts. So Luke, I doubt you're listening out in Arizona, but if you were, that was a favorite memory of Centennial/King Arena vandalism. Wheaton leading 26, 71-45. We're just under the 4-minute mark left to play. Considine catches. He's patient, and then as the ball dug away from, maybe a little too patient, kind of ran out of time, ran out of daylight.
One too many pivots. That needed to come out to the wing. That's twice that Chavello's been open on the wing when Williams had his 2 shots blocked. Chavello was open on the wing too. Both times the ball probably needed to come back out.
Yeah, sometimes the discretion is the better part of valor, especially if you're not towering over the defense there. Petrowski spins back, and shoots a nice little, kind of went left and spun back with the right-hand hook. Well, we'll have to dig into whether we thought that was supposed to be a bank shot or not, but nonetheless,
soft touch if it was.
Indeed. Wheaton up 24. It looks like Mike is going to get ready to check in 3 of the reserves here shortly. Hopefully we'll get a stoppage in play and get a chance to see 3 Thunder, who we don't get a chance to see every game. Askew driving. I think Mike will probably take a timeout here.
That was actually Chavello with another less methodical drive. Used the shot fake to lift the defender and quick step right by him.
A little more purposeful, and Mike does take a timeout just to sub. Let's see who we've got. We've got Reed, number 45, checking back in. We've got Billy Durkin from Hinsdale South, and from Lewis University checking back in. We've got Jacob Schauer wearing the number 20. Stretching out the hammies, getting limber. Then we've also got number 31, Kyle Nebbs, 31.
And 33, Daniel Garza, the senior from San Antonio, is the 5th guy out there.
31, a number worn by Mark Snavely, my former roommate, class of 95, invented the tackle steal.
And one of the few guys whose last name is also an adverb.
An adverb, not many of those out there. Chicago scores. They're 1 point short of the half-century mark. 73-49, 2:20 left to play. Oh, and a nice cut there by Nebbs, but he kicks out to Durkin, and Durkin comes up just short on that 3-point attempt from the corner. Billy's younger brother, Bobby, of course, a member of the Glenbard West state champion basketball team last year, a team that many pundits would say is one of the best teams in Illinois State history. Only loss was to an out-of-state school. Otherwise, they ran the IHSA table Now Mike McGrath has some of his reserves in. Ben Chasen from Greenwich, Connecticut bears the three to put.
Manning the point now is the tallest Shower. The Thunder mentor's son, Jacob.
He'll want to see, Coach Shower will want to see this team continue to, with the good offensive execution the starters had all game, as well as the defensive intensity. Clock winding down. It looks like Shower is going to have to take the shot. He kicks it instead to Garza as the shot clock expires. That ball just a little bit long as we come down to the 1 minute remaining in the ball game. Ooh, and a good look by Petrowski. At this point, it's a little bit of damage minimization, but nonetheless, Mike won't be happy to see that shot. He's got the legs crossed. He looks a little despondent over there.
Yeah, back-to-back threes where Thunder defenders played the ball in the air instead of recovering and being with a defender on the catch to eliminate the shot.
There's Durkin, thought about pulling up, instead kicks to Nebbs. Nebbs has it go in and out on a good look and a good kick from Durkin.
Sure looked good coming out of his hand, didn't it?
It sure did, and then, sometimes that ball just hits the front, hits the back, and go in as easy as it could bounce out. Here's Chasen. Kicking to Petrowski. Petrowski looking to hit his second in a row. Looks like that ball's going to be off Shower. And indeed it is. He and Dashiell Walker went high for it and just hit Shower last. So with 17 seconds, Twyman will trigger into Batiste. There's Chasen. He kicks it. Walker shoots up short. That ball's going to bounce out of bounds. And right now all the Thunder will need to do is inbound and let the clock expire. So Wheaton gets the win against the University of Chicago. Good win here on a less than packed house night over break. Got to feel pretty good about this if you're coach. They came out, and other than a little bit of the offensive rebounding woes early on, but the team looked pretty good start to finish.
Yeah, another great defensive effort for the Thunder, holding Chicago to 55. And again, the early offensive rebounding was Chicago's best offense this evening. And once the Thunder cleaned that up, you got to be pretty happy with the effort at that end of the floor.
Well, Coach, I mean, as much as I would have liked to have had to hold you here, in kind of a pouty mood after a loss, it's nice to have you here after a double-digit win. How'd you feel about this one?
Anytime I'm with the two of you, I'm a little disjointed and pouty.
Is that on?
Oh, sorry. Well, and when you're with the two of us and we're inept, it's even a bigger problem. So go ahead, give us the answer.
I'm mixed, to be honest with you, about tonight. Their two best players didn't play. Their returning all-conference player broke his finger, I think, early in the season, and is just getting back. He isn't quite ready to go. And then their leading scorer this season wasn't able to play. I think he's got an illness. So, mixed. I mean, you take the two best players off of any of our teams, we're going to look very different. So, please, we're a team that plays really hard, Nate. We defend really well. If we could get you a uniform so we could rebound the ball.
There are a few offensive rebounding woes early on there.
To rebound the basketball. And if we'll share it, we've got a lot of guys with individual basketball skills. They all want to get to the rim, which we really struggled against John Carroll. But if we'll penetrate and share it, those are the threes we make when we penetrate and share it. So excited to see where we are now. The next four are Augustana, Calvin, Elmhurst, and Illinois Wesleyan.
Yeah.
So we're going to find out, right? We're going to find out where we are. And to be honest, the two best teams I've probably seen all year are Calvin and Elmhurst. So it's going to be a battle, but that's our world.
That's good. You feel like you've got a lot of new guys here. It feels like the defensive chemistry has clicked pretty early. You pretty happy with that? And do you feel like now the offensive chemistry is starting to catch up?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we don't get everything right defensively, but we've got so much length defensively. TJ and Eli and Nick, even Micah, they're long. Connor Braun you would love Connor Braun. His IQ defensively is just really high. So we're in a lot of the right places. Then TJ can make some mistakes and correct it because he's 6'7" and athletic and long. So defensively, we've kind of gelled right away. The biggest thing offensively is just the willingness to share the ball. Early in the season, we weren't shooting a roll, but we were not just trying to get guys penetrate and didn't look to just share the ball, just throw it to the next good player. And when we do that, those are the ones we make. Those are the ones that we'll make. We're not a great shooting team with the exception of Tyson on any type of move. So we've got to penetrate and create some shots for each other. And in the last 2 nights, I think we've done that pretty well.
No, that's great. So off to a really good start. As you mentioned, the schedule, as December comes, gets a little more difficult. Yeah. How do you prepare, especially these guys who are here for the first time, for the rigors of CCIW basketball?
Yeah, I don't really know how to do that. And, we've been trying to talk about the fact that the world's just going to be a whole lot more physical. Guys are bigger, more athletic. I mean, that's our world, right? And to be honest with you, if Chicago had their full complement of players, they're a CCIW-sized team. So you hope you can figure out without getting beat. Now, the John Carroll game helped because they were physically very similar to a CCIW team in terms of their physical ability and size. So that helped, and I think we'll be a little bit better as we settle into the fact that we tried to beat John Carroll ourselves instead of seeing if we could beat them collectively. Yeah. And if we can do that, I think we're going to be a pretty good team. Nate, we've played, 6 games into the season and 2 scrimmages. We've yet to give up out of the 60s.
Yeah, it's impressive.
So we've got a chance to be a team that's going to be tough to score on. And if you do that, as our mentor and my predecessor, you got a chance every night. We're going to have a chance every night because we do guard people.
Awesome. Well, listen, congrats. Keep it rolling, and we'll look forward to
so how many emails am I going to get?
Yeah, you're in trouble. Thanks, Mike. Well, any parting shots as we wrap this one up?
Just running down some closing stats here. With 23 on 7 of 8 shooting, Chevello 14, Askew 10, and Braun and Williams with 8 apiece. And what an effort by Andrew Williams today. 8 points, 5 rebounds in 13 minutes, and a lot of toughness out there, I thought. Mike talked about preparing for CCIW play, and he's right. It's going to be a different animal. But when you've got Chevello, you've got Considine, you've got Cruikshank, Scott, and Williams, you've got veterans who understand and can lead the way.
Now, so a great win. Again, Wheaton wins 73-55 here on a Saturday night in Wheaton at King Arena. As Mike mentioned, Wheaton will be starting conference play. They open up with Augustana here on home ice, 7 p.m. on Tuesday. So if we can't see you out here at King Arena, tune in. And in the meantime, for Owen Handy, this is Nate Frank. Have a great rest of your weekend. We'll send it back to the studio.